All right, everybody, we are starting today to talk about cylinders. Now, as we said last week, a cylinder is basically a circular prism. Okay, and this formula is one of the first indicators that we get of why that is, why we say that. Okay, if you look at the back wall for your formulas, you're looking for the formula to find the volume of a prism. Well, that says that you should take the area of the base of the prism and multiply it times the height of the prism. Okay, now think about what a cylinder is. Okay, the cylinder by definition has two bases that are circles. So if we're looking for the area of the base, we would need pi r squared. Okay, and if we're looking for the volume of a prism, the area of the base times the height, that would be pi r squared times h. Okay, that's your base, that's your height. Okay. What's really convenient about this is that unlike other prisms that we talked about last week, unlike those prisms, uh, the area of your base on a cylinder is always just going to be pi r squared and nothing else. Okay. You don't have to figure out if it's a triangle, you use BH over 2. You don't have to figure out if it's a trapezoid, rectangle, or any other polygon. You don't have to do that. It's always just going to be pi r squared times the height. All right, look at this first example right here. Okay, it is asking us to find the volume of a cylinder with a diameter of 3 and a height of 5. State your answer in terms of pi. Okay, that's going to be something to look out for all this week. Okay, a lot of these are going to want us to state our answer in terms of pi. So just be on the lookout in general for problems like that. Okay, so if we are going to use this formula for volume, we need two things to plug into this formula. We need the radius and we need the height of the cylinder. So the question is this: did this problem give us the radius? The answer is no, it did not. It gave us a diameter. It gave us a diameter of 3. But fortunately for us, we know there's a relationship between radius and diameter, and that's this. We know that the radius is half of the diameter. And if that's the case, we can just take that 3 and cut it in half and get our radius of 1.5. That's easy enough to do. So now we've got our r, that's going to plug in right there. We've got our h of 5, that was given to us up above. So it's going to be pi r squared h is going to be pi times 1.5 squared times 5. Now, if we are stating an answer in terms of pi, you need to remember that in the calculator, we are not going to use pi. Okay? When you do these calculations and find an answer in terms of pi, that means you do all of these other numbers multiplied together, 1.5 squared times 5, but you do not multiply pi into there. What you do is you find 2.25 times 5, and then you just reattach pi to your answer there at the end. All right, so our volume ends up as this. In terms of pi, our volume ends up as 11.25 pi. All right, that's our volume. Take a look at this next one. Okay, we're going to find the radius. We're going to find the volume of each cylinder. This time, we're going to round our excuse me. This time we're going to round the answer to the nearest tenth. So this time it does not want our answer in terms of pi. It wants our answer as an actual decimal approximation. Okay? So if we use that same formula, pi r squared times h is going to be pi times 5 squared times 7.5. Well, that 5 squared is 25. 25 times 7.5 is 187.5. Okay? If we were looking for an answer in terms of pi, we would stop right here. But we're not. We want to find this answer as a decimal approximation. So what we're going to do, literally in the calculator, we're going to type in and find 187.5 times pi. And that's where we get our final answer. Okay, if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, that's going to round down and end up exactly at 589. 589.0. Moving on to our last one. All right, I want y'all to pause the video and see if you can get a good answer out of this one. All right, pause it right now and take a look. All right, here's what I got. I got our radius is 3.5 because the diameter is 7. We've already got our height, so we can just plug it in. 3.5 squared times 5, 12.25 times 5 is 61.25 pi. Okay, don't forget to add pi back into your answer there at the end. So stating our answer in terms of pi, that's it right there. All right, moving on now to talk about surface area. Okay, the surface area of a cylinder. Okay, the area. This is a very basic thing that is also just like prisms. Okay, on a prism, you would find the area of the base, and you multiply it times 2 because there's one on each end, and then you find the area of all those rectangles that connect them together. Well, on a cylinder, we don't have a bunch of rectangles. It's a curved surface that connects your two circular bases together. But fortunately, this right here, 2 pi r times h, is the area of the curved surface. And this is another formula that's going to be consistent, and it's going to be the same for all of the different cylinders that you deal with. Okay, so this time it is a longer formula, but you still only have two things to plug in. You've got radius and height are still the only two things that you actually have to find in any diagrams or information there. Okay, so we've got a height of 15, we've got a radius of 4. It's asking what is the surface area. So we use that formula right there. We're going to plug in our radius of 4. We're going to plug in our height of 15 right there at the end. Okay, this one is actually asking us to tell us the answer in terms of pi and round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to give both options for what could be your answer here. All right, 2 pi times 4 squared, well, that's 2 times 16. So our first chunk of that equation would be 32 pi. Our second chunk would be 2 times 4 times 15, which is 120 pi. If we are adding together two things and keeping it in terms of pi, we're just going to add those two numbers, 32 plus 120, and attach pi to the end. We're treated the same way as we've been doing things in terms of pi. All right, so 152 pi. And then we can look in the calendar. 152 times pi. And we get our answer of 477.5. If we want a decimal approximation rounded to the nearest tenth, okay, this would be your exact surface area, the most exact answer. This would be an approximation. All right, go on now. We've got these two problems and we'll call it a day. Okay, a cylinder has a height of 4 and a radius of 4 and a height of 7. Find the surface area. All right, we're going to use that formula. 2 pi rh plus 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. Plug in your r, plug in your h. We got 4 squared in the first piece. So that one, we just had that same problem, right? The first piece of this is going to be 32 pi. Then we've got 2 times 4 times 7, which is 8 times 7. So we've got 32 pi plus 56 pi. Okay, if we're finding it in terms of pi, we just add those together and we get 88. All right, right now, I want you to pause the video and try problem B on your own and then compare it to mine at the end. All right, here's what I got for problem B. We've got that same formula. We plug in our radius of 6 and our height of 10, and then we just simplify stuff down. Our answer in terms of pi, 72 plus 120, 192 pi. There we go. All right, that's going to be all for today. Not the craziest, most complicated thing we've ever done, especially since the formulas are written on the whiteboard right there in the classroom. All right, so y'all have a good day. Get after it on Canvas.